Hey,你啲人做乜嘢啦？哎呀，啲人，你啲人想做乜嘢咧？看唔到啊！哈，你做乜呢？嘿，你啲人想做乜嘢啦？咁邋遢啊！哎呀，你睡上馬甲啦？嘿，Hello 啊，個個人咁歡喜啊！歡喜，恭喜你啊！阿三啦，係咪？阿三啦，呢個係阿 Sally， 咁好，再見啦！咁耐都冇見你啊！想做乜呀？My boss lady, come soon lah. Oh, hello everyone. How are you all? I'm very thrilled to be here this evening. Lovely to see you all. I'm sorry we had a few little hiccups, but I'm very pleased to be giving the talk this evening, and I'll rush through this first thing. The collages here were created during quarantine in 2020, and I'm sure you're familiar with some of those. So how do I think you can just do this. I have to, there. So as Shetty said, I'm very grateful. We're all very grateful to have the company of SCWCA and to be able to share our art. So especially at this time when we can't really show. And these are the different works that were kind of influenced by the Black Lives Matter that was going on last year. Okay, so and that's the next lot. And this second lot were a result of the anti-Asian assaults in last March when 6 Asian women or Koreans were killed. So this is my response to that. Cut up, fractured people. And then, and then after that, it was spring. So the mood changed and I started doing these floral images of women. And this is 2019 when I was doing some other collages, cutouts, and using different artists like Basquiat's work, Magritte's work to create different images. So, so everyone feel free to ask any questions. I'll keep going.
I was wondering if these are cut and pasted images or are they done on the computer?
Oh, they're cut and pasted.
Oh.
They're cut from, they work, I don't know how to go back. They're cut from magazines or catalogs. And I got a lot of those during last year. How do I go back?
And what is the substrate that you use? Oh, these are on paper, but for the collages.
Yeah, they're on, oh, it doesn't matter. I have to go back. I don't know how to go back.
That's okay.
Doesn't matter. Oh, there it is. Now the ones before. Oh, these ones are from, oh, those ones. Those are mostly like watercolor paper or Fabergé paper that, no, is it Fabergé or Ombre? I think it's Ombre paper. Now let me think. I'll go back.
Thank you.
Oh,
For some reason it's there.
oh, okay. There's that going back.
Here's
oh,
some
Oh, there
information.
it is. Yeah.
How large are these? Can you give us?
They're all various sizes. The black ones are larger and the small ones are about 11 by 14 and the black ones are about 16, 20.
And they're all collages.
Yes.
So tell me, Sinan, how does your performance become part of this exhibition, you know, these collages?
Well, it is not actually part of the collage on paper, but is the part of the collage of my life and my person and my artistic expression. I express myself through performance as well as 2D and written word. So you will see with the slides, but performance is something that I've always done. And I wrote something about it now.
I know performance. I mean, I loved you just out of the, you know, like atmosphere, all of a sudden you become a character. And it's become like such a ephemeral aspect of your artwork that you're a performer. And I just enjoy so much how you transform yourself into your new character. And I think that to me, when I look at your work, it's more, you know, I see these characters, you know, static, but I think of you as more of a performer. Can you address that more?
It's when I perform like that character, I'm drawing on a very rich personal cultural history that no longer exists for me. I no longer speak Chinese to anyone. My parents have passed away. I'm in the USA where none of my birth family are. So it's in a way, it's a way of recreating that little world, you know, that little childhood world that we all carry inside us. So I honor my heritage in a way by joking and being someone funny and saying silly things or scolding. All those things are very rich with memory for me. And I'm very aware that I don't want to demean anybody or make fun of them. I'm actually trying to recreate a world that I know, that I share. See, to humanize my family and my past and that heritage.
So when I look at your performance and then I see these visual imageries like this primavera that you're showing, how do you connect these two?
Well, I think they're all faces of different people, different expressions, and they're different kinds of people, and they reflect the different selves we have. We have different aspects to ourselves. We can, different moods.
Shelley, I think it's as she goes along, having worked with some of her work, that's I think it will become clear when she shows us some other work where her stage photographs and all. I think you'll see it more directly than from the performance and then a collage. I think
So we'll be open to questions. Is that okay with you, Sinan, as we proceed?
Yeah. I won't promise that I'll answer them. No, I will. Okay, so this is from 2019. And then the Sawyer portraits from last year, they're quite large. They're about 20 by 30. I wanted to use a different medium to honor the Asian heritage. And so I used soy and watercolor. Lydia Takashita, she passed away 2 years ago. And then Renee Amitai, who was my French painting teacher when I came to the States. And my mother and different women in the nursing home that she was in. So let's see. I think so. So these are the ceramic works and the lotus shoes, a series of lotus shoes that I have been making for about 20 years. They're symbols of repression of the Chinese tradition from hundreds of years ago, where they bound women's feet, in effect, keeping them at home, crippling them, maiming them. And I made these in honor of that, the pain that women have had to suffer. And some of them, of course, are like the cocoa fiber ones are very large. They're about, I'll bring one and show you.
These are so amazing.
They are.
They're beautiful.
This is the,
and yet there's this repression, this idea of repression.
It's repression, but I made it out of cocoa fiber because that's what quite often those doormats are. Doormats are kind of cocoa fiber, and
Oh my gosh.
I wanted it to be some symbolic that we are not doormats and that we will walk on our own 2 feet. Anyways, enough about shoes. Oh, and these are more ceramic images or antique figures from clay. Oh, and these are pods, Banksia pods of an Australian tree.
So I want to ask you, Sinan, because I know from China, your family went to Australia.
Yes.
And how did that become a very, I mean, I think about the different kinds of characters of, how this tradition has changed from your original culture to the new culture. And I see this. How does that affected you?
Well, as a child, I wondered whether I was Chinese. In fact, I wondered whether I was a boy because I had short back and sides when I was 4.
What?
I had my passport photo was like slick back, like, Elvis Presley, and short back and sides. And I used to see that picture of myself. I thought, oh, was I a little boy? Anyway, the thing is, so I wasn't ever sure whether I was Chinese or Australian, because I went to Australian school. So when I went to China in my 20s, I realized that I was not that Chinese because I really stood out with my curly hair. I had curled my hair and I spoke English and I didn't speak Chinese very well. And all my education was in English. So I realized I was both. I was an Australian Chinese or Chinese Australian. I came from both cultures. I was not just one, it's not one identity. It's a mixture of the two.
And so how does that seem to, I mean, I understand how we become acculturated to a new environment. And I'm not sure how old you were when you were brought to Australia.
I was about 3 or 4, so very young.
So, you know, we're all in this idea of cultural identity. So how does that seem to affect your work and your art and what's going on? Because, you know, as Americans, we're like seemingly all like we're all one, but we're not, because we're based
Exactly.
on so many different cultures. So there's how did you acculturate to your new environment?
It was pretty easy for me because I spoke English. I learned English when I was 4, and I went to a school where everybody was the same. So I just was an Australian culture at school. And then when I went home, I was Chinese.
But what's home? What was home?
Well, you know, after school, after 3:30, after school, you go home and my mother would speak Chinese because she never learned English.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a complete duality that you weave together, like it's woven like a DNA. So you can't separate them. It's like day and night. They complement each other.
Sinan, make sure you pay attention to the chat if you can. I think
somebody else is
Nancy,
gonna have to do that because she's
okay,
talking.
Nancy is asking for you to talk. Oh, could you just go back for a minute?
Yeah, go back
okay.
to the pods because I
Could
have
you just
questions
talk
about that too.
yeah, these are all made of ceramics and then you paint them so that they look like the natural materials. Is that correct?
No, they're not painted. They're not glazed.
Oh,
They're mostly, there's black clay or brown clay, red clay, and the gray ones. They're not glazed. I think
Oh.
one of them may be glazed. The shiny one is glazed.
mhm.
Most of them are not glazed.
So
Right.
what was the impetus for this particular sculptural aspect?
Well, they are reminders of Australia.
Mhm.
The-
And
they're-
nature.
they're- Yeah, it's nature, and those trees are everywhere. Banksia pods, and
They're
it's
wonderful.
It's like kangaroo, not kangaroos. You don't see them so much, but you do hear the birds, and the kookaburras are everywhere, even in the city. So that's a very immediate memory. The tree.
You know, I think it's very interesting that you created from Australia because you were there so young. And, you know, we're in a state of being very international and yet very cosmopolitan or
It's
connected
multicultural, but
multicultural, but yet
Sinan,
connected.
I remember the reading the artist Hung Lu, who just passed away. She talked about that she had 2,000-year-old culture on her back
Mm,
and the 21st century, you know, world
sensibility. Mm.
in front of her. And I think, you know, I think Shelley, that probably speaks, you know, nothing that you're going to do is going to be without that history, without that influence. because
Exactly,
it's so
Karen.
potent.
So how would you address, I mean, I understand Sinan, how you have such a vast history culturally with the Chinese, but then Australian, and then you have all this. How do you put that all together within your art?
We're looking at it.
Well, you'll see.
Let's see the next one.
It's
Yeah, keep going.
that's why I can't limit myself to one media.
Yeah.
And these are now the doppelganger portraits, which were created after 9/11 and Rodney King. And I just had to respond to what was going on and reflect. For example, the world news, that is a destroyed landscape and the victims and just destruction of people and the planet. And then the Border Patrol, that is, that's still going on. I created these in 2005.
Wow.
And they're still relevant.
Yes. Wow.
And the other one at the top is Homeless and Hungry, showing the contrast between have and have nots. And then the one at the bottom is a light-hearted one, Native and Tourist. Just contrasting how we're human, we're all connected.
They're wonderful. Sinan.
But different. Well, I have a lot of them, but I'll just show a few of them to make that statement, how our humanity connects us in spite of our differences. And but for the grace of God, we could be any of these people at any time. We are the other.
Yes. Yes.
We are not separated. So, that LA shooting, that was about the same time as Rodney King. A young Black girl in downtown LA was shot by a Korean grocery store keeper she had taken an orange juice. I don't know if you remember this.
Mm-hmm.
So I recreated that scene.
Oh yeah, it's a vivid memory.
Yeah, it was very shocking.
Yeah.
And I had just arrived in the US in 1991, and that happened about 1992. So it was a lot of shock for me. And then of course there's the Vietnam.
Are these all photographs that you've recreated, or is
Yes. Well, the LA shooting, the Vietnam one is the only one that uses the actual background. But the LA shooting is in a tobacco store down in downtown in the Arts District. That's most of them are real scenes, real places.
But you've put yourself in those situations, correct?
Yes, I became each character, and I have an acting background. You see, I have a performing arts background.
I think we can tell.
So these are the colorblind tests to point out the things that we choose not to see. It's an acquired psychological colorblindness, like the prisoner, the elderly woman, and these are actually dimensional. They're three-dimensional, so it's hard to show as a picture. On the left is a woman in a burqa, and the right is another refugee. It's when we want to be blind to certain harsh realities. Oh, these are the butterflies series. I did a series of butterfly paintings in 2002. Oh, and these are, this is called Sinophile. In around 1998, 1999, I worked on these photo transfers on canvas with oil painting backgrounds. The one on the left, the transmigration, symbolizes a young Chinese couple who go to discover gold in the Gold Mountains in the West. It's a migration. And they're surrounded by the hexagrams of the I Ching to provide protection while they travel. The one on the left is another image of a young bride and groom. She actually might be his daughter. He's wearing, it's hard to see, but he's wearing a Chinese outfit and she's wearing a Victorian dress. And then of course the Buddhist monk meditating. So these are about, what is it? 30 by 40 inch canvases, oils on canvas.
Are they painted or printed, or how are they created? It looks like there's some photo
It's
transfer.
a photo transfer of the person. And that's the picture of the monk. I took that photograph and I transferred it to a canvas and colorized it. And then I paint around it. So the oil painting is around the photograph. So it's a photographic transfer oil painting. So,
Beautiful.
oh, these are encaustics. Encaustics, I did those a whole, I don't know, 2000 and, I started doing them, I can't remember when, but these are the ones from 2016 and 2017. On the left is a young man who's also a traveler who leaves his homeland to search for gold. And on the right is a photograph of my mother and my older sister and brother. And I transferred that to board with wax. And then you paint it with colored wax, which is what encaustic is. So it's a perfect thing to preserve an image and to preserve your memory. Some more encaustics.
Are these on canvas or paper?
No, they're on wooden board. Wooden
How large?
Board. Sorry?
How large?
Oh, they're all different. This one's about, I think it's about 20 inches square. The one on the right is about 10 by 12. Encaustic has to be on a hard board surface so that it can support the wax and the layers and layers of wax that you put on it.
So Monica asked that, it says that you use so many different techniques. Do you teach yourself, or is there somebody that taught you?
Oh, I did do a workshop in encaustics, yeah.
And the transferring of image.
Transfer, well, I bought that photo transfer medium, and you print it on paper, and then the instructions are on the medium where you cover the photograph, but it's not a photographic paper, it's just printed. Put it on the canvas, glue it on, and then use water to remove the glue.
Oh,
And it leaves behind the image. You transfer the photo to the canvas.
Is that a real leaf in the one on the right?
Yes, it is. It's a eucalyptus leaf,
Oh,
because that's a Chinese family that traveled to Australia,
oh.
that migrated to Australia. So I put that Australian eucalyptus leaf to symbolize that journey.
I've also been told that all the eucalyptus that we have here came from Australia.
Yes, it's native to Australia, but they're very dangerous. Like they catch fire because they've got eucalyptus oil.
Oh.
So they're very flammable.
yeah, they're considered an invasive species here.
Yeah, but they were introduced in order to provide windbreak, I believe.
Yes.
If I could just kind of expand upon the question I had about the different techniques, do you, because each set has a different theme or a different message you want to say, and then a different way to say it. So there's ceramics, there's oil painting, there's transfer, there's encaustic, there's collage. Which comes first, and how do you decide? And do you decide like, oh, I want to learn this technique so I can do this because that will help spread the message more clearly? Like where does that all play together?
There's no plan. It's haphazard. I happened to learn encaustics because I met some woman who was teaching classes, and I thought, this sounds great because it's quite specialized. You need to have a hot plate and you have to have special equipment, and then you get all the different color paints and you've got to keep it hot at a certain temperature. Then you've got to coat the first layer and seal it with a heat gun. And then every time you paint a color, you have to seal it with the heat gun. So it was quite a long process, but it was completely different what I learned and then how I used it. For example, this series, which are more abstract or more with non-figurative, that actually, the one on the left is the plant. It's on a sheer acetate, printed on acetate, and then that's mounted onto the wax. And there's different layers like the moss and pieces of fabric, which create different layers as well. So on the right, this is a very small one that's about 10 by 8. As you can see, there's a little tiny feather, strips of paper, red thread, and the Chinese holy paper. That's kind of an abstract.
Now, that's a beautiful composition, the one on the right, I find. The holy paper, is that what you include in the coffin?
No, it's not. No. It's used, I wish I had some help. It's used to create, they're little squares about this big, and it's used to create little ingots of gold or silver to represent money, silver and gold. And then when you pray and offer food to your ancestors, you also offer paper money and silver and gold, and you burn that.
Nice.
So that's why if I had a piece here.
Yeah, I have some here.
Oh, I think I'm going to show you how to make the ingots.
So Vivian, you have the.
Yes, I also use these papers in my collage.
Yeah.
Is that a cultural aspect? Because I don't
Yes.
feel culturally attached to anything. How about you? Anybody else? I mean, I don't.
Prayer paper.
There it is. You roll it into a little tube.
Yeah.
What is it? What is that?
That's the gold paper.
Gold paper?
That's it's paper money.
Yeah, I call them prayer papers. Sometimes it's money, it's an offering.
Yeah, it's prayer
to
papers.
pray. Yeah, without.
So you roll it up and then you make it into a tube and then you make it into a little boat. And that becomes an ingot. Like that looks like a gold ingot.
Uh-huh.
And then the whole family makes a whole basket of them and we burn that. Do you do that as
The
well?
purpose of burning it is what?
You burn them because you're sending it to the spiritual world so that they will have riches in the spiritual world.
Uh-huh.
So they won't
So
be,
do you feel that there's a lot of spirituality in the work that you're creating?
oh, I don't know, probably. I think everything that you do is a reflection of your spirit. You know, all our, what is it? Dark night of the soul. Whenever we have that, that's our spirit reaching into the dark. It all is there and it expresses itself, I think.
Yeah. Did you feel this one on the right was a funeral or not?
No, it's not. It could be a landscape. It could be trees. It's the red thread is always symbolic of life. Because red is the color of life, of blood, of courage, of love, you see, isn't it?
Yes.
And isn't white the funeral color?
White is the funeral color because when the body dies, there's no color.
Yeah. It strikes me that sort of what Shelley keeps probing in terms of your personal experience, but I was struck like looking at the doppelganger, the stage photos, where obviously you were working in layers would come very natural, would be part of your sort of thought process because you've, in a sense, had a layered experience. I mean, we all do, but yours is more, you could point to it, you know, and so the Encaustic is totally working in layers, akin to when you work in when you work in Photoshop or something, and that there's a, you know, sort of an intuitive way of that you could create something over time that coordinates with the layers find themselves. They're not just adding density. They're not covering, but different elements come forth in them. It seems really lovely.
Yeah, they reveal themselves.
Yeah.
I've got this beautiful quote from Jung, which says, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." That's pretty amazing, isn't it?
That is.
So anyway, I had about 30 of these pictures when I made the show. There may be more. Oh yeah, there's more. There's the blue lot. Same thing, just encaustic and different elements.
Melissa would love to have that quote in the chat because it's so profound. You know, Sinan, you are so versatile in so many wonderful, amazing. I mean, you blow my mind.
These are the lenticulars.
Oh my God, look at that.
The lenticulars represent our different facets of ourselves. This woman, actually, I was commissioned to do her portrait, and she loved Versace fashion. So Medusa is the Versace loves Medusa. That's on his trademark. So I made her as Medusa. And she also loved Gustav Klimt. So I put her in the Gustav Klimt and then melted the two. And as you can see, here we go. That's another. That was a young goddess and also a twilight vampire, teenage vampire.
That's wild. I love that.
Oh, this is Gangster and Monk, and they're right behind me. I don't know if you can see them. Wait. Oh, it's hard to see them. Anyway, they are fascinating lenticulars that move and reveal the different possibilities that we can be, the choices we make.
Oh, wow.
And that is the Western ideal of beauty, Venus rising from the sea, and the Muslim ideal of beauty, modest, covered up in a burqa.
Is that your daughter?
Yes, it is.
Are these Photoshop or?
No, these are lenticulars. I'm going to show you one if you can see it. Wait a minute.
Because the lenticulars have a specific
Okay, here we are.
visual.
I don't know if I can show it to you.
Oversee your legs.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
Okay, that's the lenticular.
When you say venticular, do you mean that you do a collage? What is venticular?
No, it's not. It's a there. See? Can you see the burqa?
Yes.
Oh, meaning it like flips images?
There, and there she is. They're both there in the one picture.
Yes.
Yes, Pam, that's what she means.
Yeah, like you have those plastic ridges that.
Yes, it's two pictures.
Oh, cool.
And you have to take them to a special processor, and what they do is they cut one photograph into tiny little slivers, and they cut the other one in tiny slivers. They join them together like that. And then they put a ridged plastic lens in front of it.
Right.
So when you look at it from the left, you see one image, and you look at it from the right, you see the other image.
Oh, nice.
So these two images that we're looking at are in one perspective, right?
Yes. Moving right along.
Uh-huh.
Wow.
This is my Buto, one of my Buto performances. I started learning Buto in '86 when I saw Sankai-juku in Paris. And then I started taking classes in Buto, which are very, very demanding. There's some more examples of my performances. Anyway, there we are. Here we go, Sandra. This is when I was in a band in the 80s in London. And that was called SPK. And that's another image.
Wow.
And here's a little video.
Good.
Good old EC. Meanwhile, over there we have a band that the stage appears to be on fire. That's how thrilling it all is. Big hand for SPK!
that you, Sinan?
Yes, it is.
Wow, that's great.
New sound. Intoxicate me. Silver City. Can't accept guys. Feel like ice.
So, was this the beginning of your performance work?
Where is this, Sinan?
She said it was in a club in London,
London.
right, Sinan?
Sinan, that's you?
Yes.
Wow. I hate to say it, but that's freaking 40 years ago. Right?
Anyway, I wanted to say that that is some of my history.
I can't hear you, Sinan.
Oh, I said that's some of my history.
Yeah. Was this band when you began doing performance work?
No, I began before I did that. I was an actor before I did.
Uh-huh.
So what attracts you to performance? Because I know that's a big part of you as a personality. I mean, you've been doing performance for really a long time. What attracts you to that?
I think it's because I do not have an identity. I do not have a strong identity. I feel anonymous. And when I studied theater and drama, I could act as a character, and that would express the playwright's intentions, and I could be the voice of someone who had a noble intention. A writer like Tennessee Williams or Shakespeare, they had big ideas, they had noble thoughts and ideals, and then I could, be part of that, you see, whereas I myself am.
That's an interesting aspect, because as an artist, I think, and women artists, we're all kind of groping for our own identity.
Exactly.
And as a performance artist, you're assuming other identities, right? Can you explain that to us?
Well, only in acting, only in theater. Like in theater, I'm assuming other identities.
Right.
In music, I'm the voice, lending my voice to someone else's musical expression, you see.
Yeah, I mean, you're so multicultural and multimedia. And I see in your performance, you're assuming identities but in your own visual art, there's a personal aspect to that. So can you address, I mean, you're so vast. You're like, you have this enormous, I mean, I admire that, Sinan. It's like, oh my God, you hit on all the aspects. Like each of us are just trying to figure out one aspect, but you cover so many different aspects of the cultural identity, especially as women. We're so.
I'll tell you what.
Tell us.
I was very repressed. I went to a Catholic boarding school.
Oh my.
Okay, let's get out of, let's do instead of screen share.
Stop the screen share.
Yeah, let's do this. We're all like in a conversation.
To do it, she needs to press there.
Yeah,
there we go. Okay, because I think let's open this up, because women, we are really awesome women, and we've always given ourselves over to other people I find ourselves, catching ourselves in their identity. And Sinan, you have in your artwork, I see the struggle you have, which is the same voice that all of us are trying to talk about. And you have explained it in so many different ways. Can you address that? I mean, I think you started talking about that. I think it's really important.
I want to share this with you, and that is, I always put art on a pedestal above me that I could never reach and that I could never be. I could never be an artist. I exhibited, I sold my works, I was in art shows, I traveled, but I could never accept that I wasn't an artist.
Because?
I felt unworthy. I always questioned my worthiness as an artist. It wasn't until I was 60 in a therapeutic session that I had to admit and accept and just say I was an artist, because I was never good enough to be an artist. It took me decades to accept that, to admit it.
What held you back, Sinan? What held you back?
Unworthiness. And
what was the root of that?
And also the fact that I couldn't be a painter. I couldn't be a photographer. I couldn't be a ceramicist. And an artist friend of mine said, you have to limit yourself and just do two things. You cannot do it all. And that, that really made me feel like I've got to be a painter, but I could not.
You've already proved them wrong.
But I think she's tapping into something about when art gets so idealized. And I'm not sure that we can understand the place that art has had in that 2,000-year-old culture of China.
Mm-hmm.
And the role that's not part.
It's not China. It's the whole onus of being any kind of artist.
Exactly. And it's like it's as if not only is it's as if we objectify ourselves, make ourselves feel small, because theoretically there's something big and amazing that's come forth, but only if that person you might as well call it, instead of being an artist, winning the lottery. I mean, it sort of has that same aspect of the few who actually ever get to have other people shining that same light towards them and seeing it in that huge universal way. But it's this idea of what it is, this idealized idea of what it is to be an artist. I've never heard it so poignantly expressed, of how that can negate the human spirit that creates. I mean, it just is really can be so hard, or it's because I think you're a performer. I don't think of it as performer. I think that you're performative. I think you're performing. The art is a performative act. It's a way of keeping it out of being just an object. It's a way of imbuing it with humanity. There is something there that is going on, that it has character in it always. It's not just characters like a crazy person. It has character like stance and worth.
I think it's pure expression.
Yeah.
Everything is expression.
Nice.
So, yeah.
Well,
So you've opened up a lot of, I mean, Sinan, I mean, you've taken a nerve. I mean, I feel so immersed in what you're saying, that as all of us, as women artists, we have become so in tune to being kind of nurtured and trying also to blend in with so many different things. But the supportive aspect, I understand, culturally, age, the age part, we're making art and we're trying to find a way to create our voice and make it heard. And you as a performance artist, and I just love how you become a character, and I understand as I get to know you more, Sinan, that the characters that you become are, very people that you transform into things and people that we all know, and becoming attuned very specifically to characters, to being sensitive as an artist. And culturally, I think as a culture, here we are in America, we're not bland. We have to acculturate. And you have come from China to Australia to America. And your transformation, you still have to hold on to those aspects. It's very sensitive. And I think as women artists, supportive aspect of our work and what we're doing is so important. And I'd love for you to talk about how, because you come from so many different cultures, I think that's an aspect of your work that is the transformative aspect that's helping us connect it. Can you address that?
Yes, I'd love to.
I don't know if I'm saying it correctly, but I know.
And when she finishes, Martha was wanting to ask something.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, okay. I want to tell you that you are an amazing artist. What do I mean by that? Is that you are you are genuine. You are genuine. This is, there are different type of artists, but when you talk with your blood, you talk with your cells, you talk with, it's so deep. And then there is a continuity in your work. Everything is about, for me, a spiritual doppelganger. And then even what I really love is when you started talking and you talk, I think it was in Chinese, yes?
Yes, yes, I was talking in Chinese.
And I love, it reminds me of a seminar I took when I was at UCI with Derrida about hospitality, and talk about the relationship between the host and the guest. And so you are supposed to be the host, but you are to start. So what was interesting is that you put us in a situation where, I mean, I don't know, maybe there are some other artists who understand. Was it Chinese that you spoke in Chinese at the beginning? Yeah, okay. Yeah. So maybe there are some artists who understand Chinese, but I don't understand Chinese, and I don't know if they're, anyway. So what I like is that at the very beginning, you took a stand and you were not thinking about, are they going to understand me or not? You just were yourself. And that was great, because it put us in a situation where, all of a sudden, we tend to be very comfortable with ourselves. Okay, I'm an American, I understand English, everything. Wow, wait a minute. It's much more complicated than that, because your English is perfect, wonderful, but you also have this other dimension. That's why I'm talking about the spiritual doppelganger, which is a leitmotif in all your work. So when I remember somebody said, you need to have a body of work. Well, you have a body of work, an amazing body of work. And then you have it in different technique. You have the Butoh, which I love Butoh. I mean, it's amazing. What type of thing you said that I so identify with it. So you have the performance, you have the wax, I mean, you have the encaustic, but all this is, so it looks like you could not breathe, if somebody would say, okay, you're not going to do art, no, this is, so you are an artist, it's intrinsic, it's something, it's essential, it's in your body, in your everything, you are, I mean, so what I like, and I've not seen that, I don't remember the record that I've heard anybody expressing themselves the way you did, with such an honesty, and then, not trying to pretend anything, just you were almost giving up, like surrendering to us and saying, this is what I am, I have this problem. And then, instead of, most of the time you have to show that you are strong, you are successful, you are wonderful, you don't have any problem. But you didn't do that. You showed, all the pieces everywhere, and then it was a gift. You gave it to us, all those wonderful things. And I long for honesty. I long for sincerity. I long for just exposing. It's kind of a spiritual striptease. So it was absolutely amazing. And you really are. I tell you, I cannot imagine you not being an artist. It's anyway, I spoke too much, but
no, Martha, you're fabulous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think we are all united, and we all are doing our own, in our own way, expressing ourselves. But what I was saying to Shelley was that I was repressed in a Catholic school, and I was repressed at home in a very traditional Chinese background. So when I left school, I was going to break out. I was going to just break out. I was
let it all out.
I had to. However, I wanted to be a writer, secretly wanted to be a writer. And I really, really relate to Kafka and his words more than artists, because he really gets to the nitty-gritty of how we feel, and how we feel like a cockroach, or we feel hemmed in by our physical incarnation. And if you read his quotes, they're just amazing. That's what gets into your head. These writers and thinkers, they're amazing.
I just forgot that I have a question. So, and I would like you, if you can explain a little bit more, because this is my interpretation. Maybe I didn't get it, but what is very interesting is that at one time, I think you called it even, did you call them doppelganger? Did you use that term?
Doppelganger, yeah.
Oh, yeah. And so to me, it seems very complex, or I'm not understanding very well when you show it looks like you think that you can be a criminal and can be a victim. So there was, it's not that you have this duality or conflict or contradiction. So you said, okay, it's not that I am innocent and then you are guilty, but maybe I am also innocent and I'm also guilty. And so could you
what I meant by that was we have the capacity. We have the capacity for both good and evil. We have the capacity to be the victim. We have the capacity to be victorious. You see, we can win and we can lose. We can be winners, we can be losers. It's our choice and also our circumstance. So I'm not saying to be this or that, but we all have the capacity within ourselves, and we understand good and evil. We understand what is right and wrong. And yet, it's a choice.
So you bring up so many quantified imaginations of artists and women artists and women. I mean, I've never really wanted to be saying like, I'm a woman artist, I'm like an artist, but this kind of connection that we all have in the Women's Caucus and how we're talking right now, there's a connectiveness that we all, at least I feel that there's something that we all have as a continuum, whether it's cultural, whether it's connective as a art form, as in women expressing ourselves, because we have been repressed for so many years as women artists. And Sinan, your work and all the things that you've done have, you're pushing that boundary. You keep pushing that element of who we are, as performative, as visual artists. And I think what you do, and as an artist, and what we all do, but because you expand all the mediums, you have, in the last few years that I've gotten to know you, I see that you push every boundary. You push those envelopes. It's up to us as women to continue to push those things. And I really appreciate you, Sinan, for being so vulnerable, because we all become vulnerable as artists, aren't we all? We are trying to express ourselves, but we don't want to say it verbally, but you do it in all these mediums. And how do you choose to be vulnerable? How, like you do I love what when we were in Italy and you came out as, where was Mark's birthday? And you were like this little old woman, and you were like, I was like, how do you choose to be those characters, and when do you do that? Because you really span everything. You're not just a performance artist, but you're a visual artist. You're everything. How do you?
I think we all are. We all have that capacity, but I like to challenge myself. I like to push the envelope, as you say, because I don't like to do the same thing. And I was told, do the same thing. I can't do it, you see.
Yeah. And I think as artists, that's what we're all like, like get your body of work together, and that's who you are. I think because, like, Pamela, don't you think like we're trying to be more expansive? We're in a different world now. What do you think, Pamela?
Thanks. Yeah, I had some things to say. Thank you. Well, first, I think that the thing that makes it consistent is you. I mean, people said to you, you should just have one medium of one body of work. The body is you, and you make the art, whatever form it takes, and the consistency and the mess are yours. Also, I wanted to comment on the doppelganger. For me, because it's called doppelganger, it means like the look-alike, the sort of other person that's just like you, but it's a kind of a surprise generally that you find these doppelgangers. And to me, that sort of indicates that what you're saying is that we're all one. That the person that's robbing is the same person that's being robbed, and that we feel there's a difference and we articulate a difference and decide there's a difference, but really that we're all one, and that there's unity, much greater unity than we imagine. And that also goes toward the Jungian, knowing your dark side as well as your light side, and that we have the potential to be everything. And also you mentioned that you felt that these were aspects of yourself, that a lot of these things portray aspects of yourself, and that we have kind of multiple personalities, multiple sides that come out depending on the emotional states we're in or the situations. And I think that it's wonderful how you're exploring all of that. Really brilliant.
I was fascinated when you said doppelanger. Would you like to go into that a little bit deeper? Like,
Yeah.
what goes on? What happens in the doppelanger process?
Anger. It was because it was triggered by their political pictures. I have like 25 of them, and they're the emotion behind them is anger. About for the Rodney King, I did the Rodney King photograph where the cops are beating Rodney King, and then the shooting, the high school shooting. There's kids being shot by a student. So these were, a lot of them were violent images that were in the media at the time. And so when I replicated these images, that was the feeling behind it, a protest. It's like the angry protest. When you protest against injustice, that's anger. That's why I used doppelanger.
But it's positive anger.
It is
asking for justice.
It's drawing attention to something that I object to, or drawing attention to that.
Well, this amazing imagination. It just goes anywhere, anytime, anyway. I congratulate you on that. That's quite an accomplishment, Sinan.
Well, I always wanted to be a writer. The word is very important. You see?
Yes, very.
So, Sinan, I love you so much, and I want to thank you so much.
Thank you
for presenting your work. You're an amazing artist.